Okay. Welcome, everyone. We are going to be talking today about opportunities for international clinical experiences. And for those of you who don't know, this is an opportunity for students who are in the College of Education, the teacher education program, to complete part of their clinical experiences overseas. So our university participates in a consortium called the Consortium for Overseas Student Teaching. The acronym is COST. And today with us, we have three students who actually participated in COST who are going to share, their experiences in other countries, because I feel like I could talk about this, but it's much more interesting to hear from their own mouths. So if you're not familiar with the College of Education and all the experiential learning that goes into becoming a teacher, really the last 2 years of the teacher education program, you are involved heavily in on the job training with field and clinical experiences. Most of you are familiar with the concept of a student teacher because you may have had a student teacher when you were in school, or you already know about this because you're already interested in becoming a teacher. But the last semester of the teacher education program, our students go out into the field. They are in schools every day, all day. They're with the same teacher and the same students for the entire semester, and they are basically learning how to become teachers. They are doing everything that teachers do, from hall duty to planning lessons to grading papers to doing discipline. They're doing it all every day, all day for the entire semester, so that when they graduate, they're ready to be teachers on day one. Um, so that's what a normal experience is like. But for those students who choose to, they can also do part of their experience in the United States and part of it overseas in another country. And the way it works is for about the first 8 weeks, they're here in America, and then they go to the country where they have been selected to go. So you might be asking yourself, why would I want to do this? Why would I want, if I'm going to be teaching in the United States, why would I want to do part of my student teaching in another country? And here are some of the reasons that students tell us why they choose to do this. First of all and foremost, they can learn about a new culture, and that's a very exciting thing to do. I wish I had been brave enough to do that when I was their age. And in addition, they're learning about new ways of teaching and learning, and what is education like in other countries, and what can they bring back to help them in their own careers. They're obviously learning about diversity and sensitivity. They're immersed in another culture, often with people who look different from them, practice different religions. So it's a very top-notch experience in learning about how other people in other places live, and appreciating the things that make us more alike than we are different. They're learning about methods to connect in with their future careers. And also they're learning how to become a global citizen. So these are some of the reasons why you might choose to participate in COST. So at this time, I'm going to ask our students to, I'm going to click out of this and ask our students to introduce themselves. And you're not students anymore. You're actually professionals. So we have with us students who have already graduated from NKU. They're ready. They're already teaching in the field. I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves, maybe tell us where they went, which country they went to, and what semester, what year they went, because with the pandemic, we haven't had anybody participate in COST during this academic year, what their major was, and if they want to, they can share where they're teaching or what they're doing now. So let's start with Jared.
Hello, so my name is Jared Weber. I am from Bethel, Ohio. It's about 45 minutes east. It's where I grew up, and I graduated from NKU in December of 2019. And that is also that fall semester is when I did my COST experience abroad. And I went to the Netherlands, and my degree is in secondary math education. So in the Netherlands, it was like the equivalent of 7th grade through 12th grade. And I actually was offered a full-time job to teach in the Netherlands last fall, but COVID prevented that from happening. So now I'm looking to start teaching there this fall.
Very exciting.
Yeah.
Okay, Christina.
My name is Christina Foltz. I graduated in spring 2020, and that's when I did the COST program. I studied elementary education and Spanish, and I went to Costa Rica.
Awesome. Okay, and Alexia.
Hi, I'm Alexia. I'm from Fairfield, Ohio. I graduated in spring of 2020. I studied elementary education. So I went to Australia and I did kindergarten, which they call their transition year.
Very exciting. So you can see all three of these students had very different experiences in very different places. I do think it's worth noting that Jared is the only person here who was able to participate for the entire semester. Christina and Alexia had an experience that was cut short due to the pandemic. However, I think you'll find out through this conversation that they still feel that it was a worthwhile experience. Okay, so I'm going to start by asking you some questions, and I think that this will help students who may be considering this have an idea of what or why they may want to consider cost. So the first question I have for you is, what is the greatest takeaway that you have from your cost experience? What is your greatest takeaway? Christina, would you like to answer this one?
So my greatest takeaway was to just not be afraid to try new things. Like I've always been kind of like a more shy, introverted person. So I was like really nervous to do it, but I was like, I'm just gonna try it and we'll see how it goes. Like, what's the worst that could really happen? Like, you gotta go to Costa Rica. So I went, and then while I was there, I told myself like I wasn't gonna say no to anything, like within reason, but like any like experiences. So like I was there with, I think there were 6 other people, so some were doing it cost through other colleges and then some were just doing other programs, but we were all in like the same neighborhood. So they would be like, oh, we're gonna go whitewater rafting, do you want to go? And I was like, sure. So I went, and then like my host family would be like, oh, you want to try this food? And I was like, I don't know what that is, but sure. So I just kind of learned how to like be more outgoing and willing to try new things, and that was my biggest takeaway from it.
I love that. That's such a great outlook to have when you go to a new country, and I just think that is so brave, and your attitude was so brave. Okay. The next thing I'd like to ask is, what specifically did you learn about education? I think Jared, you were going to answer this one.
Yeah, sure. So with my experience in the Netherlands, I think that there are a lot of similarities and quite a few differences as what we have here in the United States. Specifically, like in the education atmosphere, students respond similarly, I think globally, to different input and different reactions from an educator, and they require sort of similar things as well. So you experience things like students with, of course, we experience different languages as well. So like my students were just learning English. So sort of every one of my students was English as a second language learner. And also, there's like the politics of education, and the educators and the administrators in the Netherlands were facing some of the same things that we face here in the United States, which is, maybe support in the classroom, support from your administration, support from their government. And so those expectations are, I think, global for many education systems. And, there are a lot of differences in the education systems as well. So some of them are based on the supports that are built for our students. So in the Netherlands, they have a huge focus on test anxiety. And so they have specific people that are employed in the school to be able to help students with specifically just anxiety with taking tests. So that's a similarity that we have here with our students, but they're kind of handling it in almost a different way, and being very proactive about helping their students and handling those situations. And then there's sort of the in and out of like your daily life with the school is different. So in the Netherlands, I rode a bike to school every day, which was interesting. And
everybody rides bikes in the Netherlands. I remember almost being run over numerous times.
It's quite something you have to learn very quickly, because they assume that everybody knows how to ride the bike, and which, I mean, I knew how to ride the bike, but the traffic laws of riding a bike are not the same as here. They have much more infrastructure built around it. But then I would be like in class, and I would see students like leaving the building in the middle of the day, or like their doors are wide open throughout the day, which is very different than here, because they just don't have sort of the security issues that we face here in the United States in some of our schools. And their scheduling was closer to like that of a college, where students would have like 3 blocks of math that were on different days of the week. And they could be like during first period or, 7th period or somewhere in the middle of the day. And they just, every day was different for them. Sometimes they had blocks in their schedule where they could go into the city and get lunch and have a long lunch break. So I think education wise, lots of similarities, but also a lot of differences.
That sounds fun. That sounds really interesting.
Yeah.
I think one thing I just took away from what you said is how you realize that students respond to the same thing no matter where they are. We all have the same wants and needs. And I think
Yeah.
that's true no matter what grade you teach. You know, I've taught everything from kindergarten to graduate students, and it's exactly the same. People respond to the same things. And I'm sure it's the same in other countries as well, because at the end of the day, we're all human and
Yeah,
we all have the
exactly.
same needs and wants. We want to be treated nicely and know that people care about us. And so that's really interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
for sure.
Um, the next thing I want to ask is, how did this experience change your worldview, if at all? Alexia, you want to answer this one?
Yeah, so mine is like really similar to what Jared said. There was a lot of just like in the way of their life. Australia is actually very similar to the United States. So just like recognizing that there's somewhere out there, like yes, we're in the United States, the free country, but like Australia was a lot similar, like very similar to how we were. There was the issues of they have the Aboriginals, which Aboriginals are their natives. And they are the ones who get the government assistance. They live in a little bit more poor areas and get a little bit more assistance because they struggle. So to me, I compare that, that's our homeless, that's our homeless here. So I just saw like the comparison between there, like they, need more support. So they get more support. Everybody in the society knew about them. You kind of just let them be, because that's their circumstance and, we can only help so much. So I saw that. And then, I mean, in Australia, there was, the food was very similar. There was a little bit of differences. But, I was like, okay, well, these might have different names, but it's still the same concept of, the food that I would eat when I'm at home. And then just like everybody, I mean, the hospitality there, I think I personally, because, I went to Australia, but I've also been elsewhere. The hospitality out in the world, I would like to imagine, I have to experience a little bit more. But it's just amazing. Like, they let us into our home. I got to meet a lot of their friends. Their friends were welcoming. The schools were welcoming. If I was confused when I was out and about doing things, because my host family was a little bit older. So sometimes they didn't go out when I went out and I was by myself. Never at night. I was safe. They knew where I was, vacation, all of that. But it would just be like the mall or something like that. But if I was confused, like people would be willing to help me. And, so that type of thing, being able to help other people around, I thought was amazing, just open my eyes, that people are, generous and kind, elsewhere as well. So I really love that. And then, I mean, just the way of life. They had the suburb area, they had the city area. My host family actually had an apartment in the city and they lived in the suburbs, and they took me to the city to their apartment. So, I got to see the difference in, okay, what is the city life like? What is the suburb life like? And it's very similar to ours. The city they had a little bit more higher buildings. They actually let street art happen, which was really nice when I was there. So, which would be like our Essential to Graffiti, people walked around, wanted to see it. And then, like the busing system they had, there was obviously a lot of kids who walked to school, but just like the city having a bus, I actually had to take the bus more often. So, like those type of things were very similar, just, different. The way they looked, maybe the way the name was, obviously just a little different, but there was a lot of comparisons from, United States to Australia. I mean, that is only Australia. So I don't know about all the other countries, but just recognizing that, yes, all these countries are different in their own way, but there's a lot of things that are actually very similar.
Good, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think I'm going to ask all of you to answer this question. So every semester we have students who express an interest in cost and they really want to do it, but for some reason they are hesitant. So my question is, what advice would you give to other education majors who are considering cost but may be a little hesitant? Christine, you want to go first?
My advice, I think, would be just go for it. Like, I don't really see how this could ever be a negative experience, honestly. And like when you're down there, just like do your best to like put yourself out of your shell if that's why you're not wanting to go. And I think you'll surprise yourself at like what you're capable of when you're in that situation. But
okay,
no regrets.
Good. Jared?
Yeah, I would echo the same exact sentiment. I knew about cost early on because of somebody that had done the cost program before. And so I was like very, very involved early on, almost too involved. Like I probably annoyed the staff at NKU, but just like know that there are resources for you, and any obstacle that you're facing that you think will prevent you from being able to do this, there's somebody that's going to be able to help you. So whether that's an emotional thing for yourself, if that's financial thing, if it's if it's a fear, there are people that have been through the experiences that can guide you and tell you about the resources that will be able to help you with all of those things. So and just to echo Christina's, like, just do it, just get out there. It's a once in a lifetime opportunity. Changed my life completely. I mean, it really changed like my outlook on my future and what's going to be happening in my future. And so yeah, just do it.
Awesome. Okay, Alexia?
I would definitely have to like ditto both of them. Just like Christine said earlier, I'm an introverted. So, it was really hard, and I love being around my family. I'm a big family person. So I was like very hesitant, but I always have like, okay, Lexi, get out there, go travel. And so I did it, and I don't regret it at all. And then again, with the financials, my mom is a single mom. She has 7 kids. So financially, I was like, how am I going to do this? But NKU was more than willing to help me as much as they can, connect me to resources, do what they needed to do so that I could go. It's not just you're here doing this by yourself. Like, people are willing to help you through it. On a more like, okay, exactly what can you do? I'd say one of the things that really helped me is, this is again getting connected with NKU. I asked like who else has been there. And so connect to other students who have done this experience, reach out to them, especially if they've gone to the country that you have gone to, and they can give you a little bit of insight. That was really helpful. I actually got to talk to someone who's been to Australia before I went, so that helped me like make my final decision. I would say don't hesitate to reach out to your host family. Your host family is going to know that country more than anybody that you're going to talk to at NKU. So get to know them. What kind of things would you need to wear? What's the weather going to be like those type of things you might not think about. Culturally, what's appropriate, what's not appropriate. You might not know that some things you do there or you do here might be offensive there. So just be willing to reach out to whoever you can, because it's going to help your experience and it's just going to make it a whole lot better.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because you went to Australia, which it does have a lot of similarities to the United States.
Yeah.
But we have had students in the past who have gone to very different countries, Germany, China. I'm trying to think, there are so many, Bahamas, Mexico. So there are lots of opportunities to go to different countries. And I think that you get to choose certain countries, but then the final choice, you just have to go where they say, right? As long as it was on your list.
Yeah, you get 3, and then they could choose one for you.
Okay, got it. All right. Well, thank you all for doing this. The last thing I want to ask is just if there's anything else you would like to share that we haven't talked about that you think might be helpful for future students interested in this to know. So, Alexia, you want to go first?
Yeah, sorry. So if there's anybody else who is interested in doing this, I would definitely say that you should go for it. I don't really think there's anything holding anybody back. I think there's a lot of countries out there that you will learn a lot from them, and they will learn a lot from you as well. It's a once in a lifetime opportunity. You don't want to have any regrets in life, and I don't think doing this will be a regret to anyone. So if it is just that, okay, I'm scared, there are people you can talk to your family, talk to other COS people, like, what can I do if I'm scared, if I am homesick? One of the girls who went before I did, she was very homesick, but her host family understood that about her and helped her as much as she can. You can FaceTime, you can call, but it's good to get away from home a little bit. And I think it'll be good if you are that person to get that little bit of independence. So just be willing to go for it.
Awesome. Okay, Christina?
So when I was applying, some of my friends were also thinking about doing that. And they said that they were nervous because you would miss like the interview season in the United States, and you'd miss the opportunity to make the connections in whatever area you'd be student teaching in where you want to eventually get a job. And I actually got my job because I did the COS program, because they said that made my resume stand out, and that's something different that they hadn't seen anyone else do. So yes, you might miss like the, job fair,
Mhm.
but it can also help you stand out more too.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. That is so true. I know that a lot of students have said that helped them get the job, because not only do you have a different experience that sets you apart, as we've talked about, it changes your worldview and you come back with tools and understanding that you didn't have before. So I think that's an excellent point. Jared, anything you'd like to share?
Yeah, I would add, if you have the opportunity to stay with a host family, that you should choose that route if you feel comfortable, because it helps immerse you in the culture. And then you, as Alexia was saying, you sort of have a connection, you have a resource there that of somebody who knows the culture, knows the environment. And while you're there, especially if you're with a host family, is like just envelop yourself in the culture, and also share your pride for like the US and for NKU while you're there as well, because people will have a lot of questions. But just, make sure that you're not distancing yourself from the reason you're there, which is not only not only to have this international opportunity for fun and excitement, but the big reason is like you're learning about education systems in other countries, and you're learning about those world views. And while you're there, just keep an open mind. As Christine was saying, those extra opportunities. I got to fly a plane, which is like kind of interesting and cool. That was unexpected, but like, okay, small, like, 2-person plane, but just things that these opportunities that present themselves while you're abroad that you may not have here. Just be willing to take a risk, be daring, and just do it, as I've said 15 times. Yeah.
Can I add one thing really quick?
Absolutely.
Because he had mentioned like anything you can do to recognize the United States. So I think one of the things that I don't know about the once you get to the higher levels, but the younger kids, like there's books about the United States, like I brought the Fiona book. And so, giving them a little bit of insight in a way that excites them. They were all super excited about, she's a hippo that's just, popular here, but to them,
Everybody loves Fiona.
yeah, so just like those type of things that relate to where you're from that also excite them. That helped like my transition into the classroom as well, because the kids, that was my first thing, introduce myself, and then we got into, where am I from? This is a book about Fiona, who's very popular here. So just something that they can connect to that's going to get them excited about where you're from as well.
That's a great point. You're learning from them, but they're learning from you too. And so it's definitely a win-win for everybody. So I just have one last question that I didn't tell you I was going to ask. Do you feel like you're a different person because you did this?
Who wants to go first?
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, go for it.
I was going to say I do. I've always had this part of me who wants to go travel, who wants to, explore and go out there, especially in the education, but, just in the culture. And this is one of the experiences that definitely honed that in me. I am looking into doing the Peace Corps in about 3 years. I have a contract right now, but I want to do the Peace Corps, and then I'm looking into being a traveling teacher. Just because being elsewhere and seeing, the passion for teaching, that's everywhere, the value of education everywhere, experiencing other cultures. So it's definitely made me, continue to be the person that, I didn't really know if I was going to be, but now I definitely do know that this is the career path I want to take. This is how I want to go about it. And that COS program has helped me do that.
You have the bug now, right? You
Yep.
the travel bug. Yes, good. Okay, Jared, do you want to share?
Yeah, I would say, it's definitely changed me. It's I've learned a new language. I've connected. I made a lot of new friends in the Netherlands who I literally chat with every day. In fact, my host family came to the United States to visit me last March, and so just I feel like I have sort of a new sense of passion, renewed passion for like education and for appreciating just the world, as the differences and the similarities that we share.
I feel like you always have had a passion for teaching, but it's even more ignited because of this. That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, Christina.
Yeah, like they said, I completely agree. Like it's definitely changed me. I was always that person, like if there was something I wanted to do, I'd like go ask some of my friends, be like, hey, I want to do this. And they'd be like, nah. And I'd be like, all right, I guess I'm not doing it. But now I'm like more willing to be like, oh, well, I'm going to go do it by myself because it's something I want to do. So I'm going to try it by myself. And now I'm definitely more independent and willing to like do things like that alone and not have to have people with me all the time.
You all are the best spokespeople for this. Thank you, honestly, for doing this. I appreciate it so much. Okay, one last thing, Christina. We saw your kitty cat. What's your kitty cat's name?
So there was Tasha and then there's Kiki.
Oh, two of them. Okay, I love cats. All right. Well, thank you all so much. I'm going to stop the recording. Maybe if I can figure it out. It's going to be